So we are recording this session. If there's anyone on your team who couldn't join us right now, it is your job, the folks who are here, to have a look at the names on this. When Nate set this program up several years ago now, right? 5 years ago.
Uh,
The intention was to give students professional feedback that they weren't getting because there was no internships at the time, right? Stupid COVID. But also at different phases, right? Like you may have just started a project or you may just be working on one little tiny piece of it. And rarely do you get focused feedback on an entire project, a group project, individual little tiny slices of it. But this is intended as an opportunity to connect with professionals. So look at every single name here, look at every single name on the meeting invites and connect with them, because this is an opportunity for a longer relationship than just what we have here. I know two of you, but I think Cyrus, I think you're the only one who reached out to me before this to connect. And so yeah, like do that. Like that is an invaluable opportunity. Every single person here has different lenses and different experiences to connect you with. This is the start of our relationship. Um, so we have 15 minutes of feedback for the panelists who reviewed all the project work. And then we have some time for Q&A. But really take the opportunity to ask questions or make a note about a question you want to follow back up on, because this is what this is all about. It's actually less about the work you submitted and more about developing these relationships. So first up, we have, everyone good? Everyone set on that? Throw a question into the chat if you have one during the time. So who just put read AI meeting notes up there? Was that Nate? Okay, Heidi. So I don't know if you're all there. Are you following the?
Sorry,
No,
sorry.
that's fine.
It
I'm
just happens automatically when I Zoom.
So
I
it's
get it
there's
out.
an interesting bunch of trends. Who's been following the terror of Gen Z face this week? Nobody? Like Michael knows what it is. Nobody else. Amanda knows what it is. Um, so a big part of this conversation are professional expectations. This meeting is being recorded, and I've noticed a lot of students don't have their camera on. This is an opportunity for you to connect as a professional, so I have no idea why your camera wouldn't be on. And then also Gen Z face, which is, millions of discussions this week, is Gen Z just staring at you. Like when you ask a question, oh, can I help you? And it's considered a disconnect, a lack of professionalism. Psychologists are weighing in, business owners are weighing in. It's the thing. Another interesting trend is so as Heidi had mentioned, whatever system she's on automatically puts in an AI tool to take the notes. You need to say that. Like if you're in a car or somewhere where it's not appropriate to have your camera on, you would say, "Oh, I'm super sick and nobody needs to see me doing this. I'm going to keep my camera off." I say, "Oh, thank you. Good choice." Instead of like, "Are you even there?" Um, and so a lot of students are actually putting up an AI bot on top of what's already being recorded. So if it's automatic, say, "Oh, like I can't help that." Yep, that totally makes sense. But then they're leaving. So no camera, AI is taking the notes and recording, and they're disengaging entirely. Like, none of that's a good look, kids. Particularly for this. Like this, you volunteered, you wanted to take part in this. So this is a situation where we are absolutely going to ride you on that. I will review your resume, review your reels. I do about 400 a year, and I will let you know if there's a typo or a misspelling. Because that's what what the expectations are professionally. And also, like, if you look around this room, there is not a professional in this room who also wouldn't do that for you. Have a look at your stuff. So not just what we're looking at today, but anything else you got going on, throw it at us. Okay, now for your viewing review pleasure, Project Oasis, Journey to the Forbidden Temple. Is Cal Rustad from MIT here?
Hello, yes,
Hey,
I'm here. Can
Cal.
you hear me okay?
I can, and I'm super. Is
Awesome.
that ET behind you? What's behind you?
Transformers coming
Transformers.
soon. Yeah.
More than meets the eye. Excellent. So the folks who reviewed the Project Oasis Journey to the Forbidden Temple, you can start providing your feedback for Cal. Take good notes, Cal. We'll
Okay,
also
awesome.
have this recorded as well. So
Thank you so much.
who are our reviewers who had a look at this one?
In order for us not to jump in on each other, which we love to do, is there a way in which we can just do it in an order that we all know going into each one of these projects, which one of us speaks first?
So are the ones, so there's people here who didn't review all the projects, reviewed other projects or administrators. So let me take a note. So Heidi is a reviewer this go around, correct? Joe is a reviewer this go around, correct? And is Peter a reviewer? Peter, were you a reviewer? No, and Michael was a reviewer? So are those the three for this? Or do we have any further? All right, so I'll call who to start with, and then we'll roll through it, and I'll surprise you. Different people will start on different projects, so be ready. Michael, do you have a question, or you're answering my question?
I was answering your question. Oh,
Thank
but
you.
I need to lower my hand. Sorry.
No, yeah. So if there's a question, just throw a little hand up there. Thank you for demonstrating, Mr. Libby. Or put a comment in the chat, and I'll try and keep up with that. So I'm gonna start a timer here. And off we go. Heidi, take it away.
There you go. Well, first of all, fantastic. It's so fun. I love the
Thank you.
idea of taking your driveway and turning it into an attraction. I have never seen that. And I'm in Burbank, California. And
I
Joe's
am right now.
Huh?
I am right now.
Really? Are you?
I'm here for the summer. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, then we all have to meet afterwards.
Yeah.
We'll connect for sure. I found that absolutely fascinating, and we have seen some amazing Halloween experiences
Mhm.
here in our area. So right off the bat, I went, yeah, this is crazy. This is fun. And then I got into really assessing the experience because, as I said earlier, I'm really about the guest experience.
Mhm.
So what was it? Starting with the anticipation of this fun experience and then moving into it. Unfortunately for you, I have to say that the videos were a little choppy and a little challenging to really get a whole sense of it. I would have loved to have seen maybe a layout of your
Mhm.
entire space and where things are, and maybe going into like a quick sketch up or something just to give us a sense of it. Overall, I thought it was just it appeared that there was a tremendous amount of fun. I would have loved to have seen it. Here comes some of the critiquing of it. The story was really
Okay.
choppy.
Oh yes.
There were significantly blank areas, and I don't know where they actually were gaps or if it was a gap in the video. But once you set the tone, and you set that tone right off the bat, you have to keep that bar up there or increase it. As the movement of
Yeah.
this experience happens, as your story unfolds, it's like it's a solid classic story, building, a little bit of conflict, a little confusion, and then the payoff. And I'm not too sure where the payoff was. It was an
Mhm.
experience. I'm not too sure what I came out of with it. And I would love to see more of that. I thought I'm going to let the gentleman speak to your technical and your mechanical and all those things that were really amazing. I kept saying I want one of those in my driveway. That'll be great fun. But
No, he knows where you live. Don't.
pardon me?
He knows where you live. Be careful.
Yeah, I know
I
that's
start
true.
building.
But I love the premise. I love the idea. I loved all the aspects. You really tied in a lot of the different skills that you had, which I loved. You tied in interesting softwares and how you did that. But really, what it comes down to is your consistent, solid, and flowing experience. And that's where it got a little choppy for me. And I'd love to see
You know,
you.
I really agree with that, and I appreciate the
Okay.
input. Yeah.
Because you did your
Sure.
graphics and so much of it was just magical, and you could clearly see that the young girls were very excited. I'm not too sure what that's all about, Cal, but boy, they came back. They wanted to see it again and again. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. We could go on and talk a lot more about some of the other things that you could have added to it for an overall experience, but really, I felt it was overall really well done. Thanks.
And I'll just I'm not sure if I'm supposed to respond at all, but of course, just thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate it. And yes, I definitely agree. Oh, is that a dog? There's a dog or something. I definitely agree with the story part. So for those who aren't like super familiar with the project, it was 1 year. Like I've always kind of done something for Halloween. It started on November 1st. I had this idea and I had to kind of do it all in a year. So it was first and foremost kind of like a proof of concept for the ride system because I did all that myself. So it was I typically, in the story world, the story comes first and then the ride comes from that. And I'm really not a story person, which is one of the things I'm trying to grow myself. I'm trying to learn how to make the more compelling narratives and really drive that experience. So it kind of started reverse for me. I figured out, hey, I want to build a ride vehicle that can do this, but I want to bring it at this scale. So I got it all working and I'm like, okay, what can I make this about? To kind of have a simple theme. So yeah, I definitely agree. In the future, I'm going to try and really work to fully integrate the experience in the show with the technical side. So yeah, I appreciate that.
So another reminder here. So the criteria that the panels were specifically looking at, there's way
Mhm.
more in a professional setting. Use of technology, storytelling and guest narrative, and placemaking. So those were specifically the sorts of things that
Yeah.
the panelists responded to. And also, why would you learn to do storytelling when you're a Mechie? Why would you just not partner with a storyteller? The idea that you
Because
have to
no,
do it all is not realistic, right? We work on projects
Mhm.
with hundreds, sometimes thousands of subject matter experts. So figure that out, right? There's somebody else from your own university here right now who is a storyteller. What with the Zooms and the interwebs, right? There's loads of ways to collaborate remotely and across time zones. So understand that we have no expectation that you're good at all these things. That's absurd. In fact, you'll only be kind of mediocre to terrible at 100 things, be really good at a few things, and then partner with the best of the best on those other things. Joanne Cicero, take it away.
Thank you, MK. Cal, you're one amazing young man. I was very, very impressed, of course, like everybody who saw your video. But I'm just going to build on what MK just said. I'm looking back on my own career. I think about, the smartest thing I did was surrounding myself with people that were smarter, more talented than myself. In other words, understanding what your assets are and what your liabilities are. In fact, I remember back one of my professors at CalArts said, he says, know what you're good at, and he said, and get better at that. Know what your weaknesses are, he said, and try to limit your liabilities. You're super smart, obviously, because you do everything good and you do some things really great. And it seems like the engineering part of this and where you put the emphasis. And again, the showcase was about looking at all the things MK just said about the storytelling, use of technology, and the placemaking. And the placemaking fell a little short. The story, as Heidi just said, fell a little short as well. But man, when it came to technology and and your ability to showcase your strength in that regard, and so your video kind of leaned really, really hard into that. So maybe just you want to ask yourself, as you're looking forward into your career, what you want to do, I think it's great, especially nowadays. I mean, with all that you have available online and through various groups and through your fellow university students, partnering and creating a team, could have benefited you more. I'm sure still that the group, the people that came were were super impressed. I mean, you don't often see a full ride system in somebody's garage.
Yeah, and
by the way,
for reference, this was done before I was at MIT. So
okay.
I didn't have the resources of the school and at that moment.
But and I got to say, you must have amazing parents to to allow you to take over their house And I'm sure they were there helping you, provide you with resources too. So don't take that for granted, you know. All of us look back, and I look back on my own career, and I think about the support that I got, not only from, you know, the professors and fellow students, but boy, parents are really important. So I don't want to take
Sure.
up, I know we got a lot to cover here and a lot more people to talk. But again, my core advice to you would be focus on your strengths, you know what you're good at. And I think you're good at a lot of things, like I said, because you're super smart. But you know, if engineering is what you want to do, and ride systems is what you want to do, then you know, dive into that 100%.
Thank you.
We have Mr. Michael Libby up next for feedback. Meanwhile, Cal, Jamie Gerardo and I are gonna like sidebar and like invent a program where his all art students can partner with MIT's all engineering students, right? You're inspiring us to develop programs to fill these gaps so you don't have to do it by yourself. Another interesting part, and by the way, everything we say goes for everyone. So sometimes we might not want to repeat something if we've already said it, like, why is your camera off? But think about everything we say probably applies to everyone, not for this particular interaction, but some of your inspirations, Cal, might be a really good story moving forward. Like, have you seen some of the stuff Sean LaRochelle is doing? Like, how on earth did you decide to build this in your driveway, right? Like, was it an inspiration of some of the Halloween stuff that happens in the Burbank Hollywood area? Where that came from and how you got and then you presented your work to this amazing panel, right? Like think about your story and your journey, because that's what makes you interesting. You need to be both interested in your field of study and interesting, and that you're actively engaging in it. Michael Libby, take it away.
Hey, Cal. So I'll start by saying it generally takes a lot to impress me, and I was blown away by this when I first saw it, to the point that I actually shared it with on my company Slack. Very, very impressive work. Um, yeah, just the amount of multidisciplinary skills that you needed to pull this off. I was very, very impressed by it. Um, Boy, yeah, some of the things that I wanted to say have already been said. Um, I kind of want to push back a little bit on some of the other things that have been said about picking one thing and sticking to it. I think we are heading more towards a future where you kind of can be multi-talented, and you know there is this sort of emerging role of the creative technologist that kind of wears two hats at the same time. Um, I will agree that the first thing that kind of jumped out to me was it was clear that the story didn't come first. Um, and you know, generally in our business, you always start by figuring out what is the story that you want to tell, and then figuring out what is the technology that supports the story that you want to tell. Um, and you know, this to me was just one of the most impressive student tech demos that I've ever seen. Um, and yeah, probably did need a little bit of story work, both in the content itself and in the submission. Um, you know, where the actual way that the submission for the contest or for the competition was structured. You know, it was clear that it was more about how the project was built and the technology behind it. Um, and the submission didn't go into the story as much. You know, that's something I guess we can ding you on, and it's clear that you're already aware of it, and you've learned from it for your next project and for your future work. Couple other very minor things, just you know, when you go into the professional workforce and you start to work on some of these big projects. One is that you're always going to want to be thinking about throughput. Um, you know, that's a very real thing in our industry. I think unless I interpreted the submission wrong, I think there was only one ride vehicle, which I totally understand for budget reasons. And these are kind of silly things to be pointing out about something that you built in your home. But, you know, in a very real sense, that does affect how long the guests have to wait in line to go on it. You have to consider demand, consider throughput. All of these things are very real considerations. And then the other note that I would give is it's really impressive that you built these amazing pieces of media in Unreal Engine and pulled off the squinching. I mean, that's awesome. That's great. Having said that, one of the most important things about squinching, or kind of one of the main reasons to do it, is that they are set extensions. And they're meant to be sort of like windows into a larger world. And so the way that the screens are integrated with the surrounding scenic environments is one of the most important aspects to really pulling off the squinching effect. And to me, you know, these still read as screens within a house that were kind of standing screens. You know, so then the question is, maybe, you know, maybe the story is, you know, there's always value engineering involved. Maybe it's not an immersive hidden oasis. Maybe the ride is actually going through your haunted parents' house or something like that. And that's the story, because, you know, then the interstitial.
Time.
Oh, sorry, that's it. That's all I got. That's my feedback. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So what that means, is get his name and email him and say, was this further feedback you would like to share? Take that as an opportunity. Heidi, what do you got? You're muted.
Good, sorry. I'd like to reiterate the importance of us seeing you. And a lot of the screens have the black background and the name, and that's fine. But you can have the most amazing project in the world, and if you don't show up, and if you don't suit up, and if you don't present in a way that's compelling, that gets lost. So I'm going to encourage everyone that is in a black screen to please let us see you. We're here for you, and we need to see you. Thank you.
Also, I run 2 news feeds, one on Facebook and one on LinkedIn. The one on LinkedIn is more about business deals and jobs. The one on Facebook is more about popcorn buckets and the Savannah Bananas. But those are both, I think, useful to keeping sort of your finger on the pulse of what's happening. Even just the titles of these things. Yesterday, I posted a research article on the upswing in boutique experiences. So when Michael says, whoa, throughput, nope, he's exactly right. Except that these boutique experiences are popping up here and there, meant very specifically for a tiny intimate group of folks. And so you can't just be like, oh yeah, that needs to be intentional. You need to say, oh, I'm aiming for the boutique market. I'm aiming for the huge surge in horror that's happening year round now, globally. So just be aware of what's happening in your own universe. Reach out to me and I will add you to those if you like. And sorry, I understand that none of you are on Facebook. That's for old farts, but that's where my cool content is. So, next up for your viewing pleasure, we have Birdie's Bookish Adventure from Lizzie, but I don't see Lizzie here. Is somebody from that team or Lizzie here? So the panelists will give their feedback, will be recorded. And then Lizzie can look that at another time. Thank you all, by the way, on your summer breaks and your summer jobs and conferences and whatnot for being able to participate. So let's go in reverse order there. Mr. Libby, if you want to kick things off for Birdie's Bookish Adventure. I also put in the chat the link where all these projects are, if you wanted to have a look, if you hadn't seen some of these yet. Take it away, Mr. Libby. You're muted, so you go.
Thank you very much. Yes, sorry, I'm pulling up the deck here again to refresh my memory.
By the way, I like that we all now work in NASA. We've all got like all these monitors and we're looking over here, but that's just because I'm taking notes on what he's saying over here.
Yep. Okay, here we go. Yes. So, my response here to this is that the idea is good. I think it is sorry, I'm just pulling up my notes. The idea is good. I obviously love the purpose and the intent of this project. I feel like my biggest comment here is that the gamification feels a little bit dated. And it feels like this is an app that would have been a huge hit maybe 5 to 8 years ago. And there is some new sorry, I'm having trouble accessing my notes that I took on this. Yes, this is a great way to people in Brazil still talking about gamification. Yeah, so this is what I would say. There's an opportunity here to do more, and there's something that we talk about in game design. There's a term called ludonarrative harmony, and that is where the mechanic of the interaction matches the intent of the story. So if the story is about being a wizard, that means that the mechanic is casting spells, and those two things align with each other. And that's very important. Otherwise, it feels almost like a gimmick. And so to me, the main criticism I would have here is that this felt like a mechanic without a narrative. It's kind of like the old Foursquare app where you would check in at a place, and then that was the purpose of the app. And, that was the extent of the app. You check in, and that's a great first step. But I kind of wanted to see more. I wanted to see more progress. I wanted to see more characterization for myself as a character. I thought this was a very good first step. And then I also thought you could, explore. Hi, Frank. Welcome to the chat. I also thought you could explore some new emerging technology, and in particular AI. And I'm not talking about AI chatbots. I'm not talking about AI note takers. I'm talking about generating AI content, specifically for the user based on all of the things that the user has put in and input and all of the things that they've done. Rather than just sort of checking boxes, you can actually now create custom content. I don't know if it's cutscenes or interstitials or something. There are now new ways to engage guests further in a more immersive way, rather than just the traditional collection mechanic. So that's what I have to say.
We'll give Frank Nunez a minute for a breather there before we jump in. We're on the second one here, Birdie's Bookish Adventure. Frank, it doesn't seem as if Lizzie is here, but this is all being recorded, so they'll be able to have a look at this. Cal's on the run there. Let us know if you need help. What's happening? So next up, Joe, why don't you have some feedback for Birdie's Bookish Adventure?
Okay. Thanks, MK. Yeah, I agree with Michael. I think the purpose and the intent are great. Anything to promote reading, and the bigger idea that she had here to have 3 specific components. Looking at the criteria of the showcase, where we're supposed to be looking at storytelling, placemaking, guest narrative, etc. I felt like the only component of the 3 that she presented that really fit the criteria was this live theater piece. And so I would encourage her, understand the criteria, understand your audience. And so I just focused on the live theater piece of it, thinking that was the one piece that was most relevant to what we were trying to give them in terms of feedback. And focusing on the live theater piece, felt like, it was very underdeveloped. There was a germ of a good idea there. And I would just encourage her, to look at different ways. And again, the other thing we're supposed to be talking about was technology. In this regard, live theater, there's a lot of interesting technologies, both high tech and low tech. For me, live theater, the thing that impressed me most are because it's happening real time right in front of you. So think about the cool things that you could do that are happening real time. Think stage magic. I don't know if you saw the Harry Potter Broadway show or any of the Disney Broadway shows. They like to use a lot of magic and things that, you know, because it's happening real time in front of you. Some puppetry, maybe, you know, interesting costuming. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, you know, specifics about how that piece of what she was doing could have played out a little better for me.
Yeah, and in terms of like the story that you would tell about yourself and where you came from, Eduardo made a good point here. Like, well, yeah, this is several years out of date if it's a North American or European audience, but if this is South America, this is actually state of the art. So I Googled this participant. Not only is she not South American, she's a show writer. And so like for Cal, absolutely we expected the engineering to be the best. That's what he is. Oh, and he does a little writing too, right? So that was kind of a bonus, but you want to make sure that what you're submitting features what you're very, very best at. Ideally, what you're best at and what you're interested in are the same thing. But say, I'm stretching my writing legs right now. I'm not very good at this. Here's a first go. Great. That just gives us all context when we're looking at something. We can say, great job, Cal. It's not what you do, but you tried really hard. And so help us give you feedback that is relevant by making sure we understand where you came from, what your strengths are, what gaps you were trying to fill, what you know your next steps will be. So Heidi, you have feedback on this one for us?
Yes, yes, thanks. Absolutely. First of all, I love anytime we bring people back to opening up a book and reading it. This, I build free libraries because I feel so strongly about bringing people together and getting back into that. Having said that, I love the concept, but dang, this is a boatload of stuff to try and pull off. There's every single element in here. It's almost like a laundry list, so we can get all these things in. I think I'm not real clear what the setting would be. I'm not too sure how this would happen, but I feel a sense of this would be an academic assignment. So this is something that might spread throughout an entire semester, or depending on what the program is. I'm with Joe. There's a lot of things that when you try and bring all this together and you've ticked off every single possible way of doing it, it becomes a coordination nightmare. And for that, I'm not altogether sure that this actually could be pulled off. It's challenging. But again, bringing any kind of encouraging to reading, going back and forth and having it more of a kinetic experience and then becoming more of an analog experience, all these different things. I love the idea of having an exclusive Birdie's Books library where this could all be done. Interesting to note that we're looking at public domain literary works of art. I would really like to drill down more and see how each one of these really completely connect with each other, and how, again, that ultimately creates the experience. And I'm going to tap in a little bit with Michael and say, is this ultimately the participant writes their own story and has their own Birdie books as a part of the library, and it continues to evolve and to evolve. Overall, I enjoyed the concept. I just think it needs a lot of work to make it happen.
Thank you. Frank, was this one you had reviewed?
Yeah, I looked it over similar to my intro when we met the students at the first time, that I'm looking from a production standpoint, production design, technical design standpoint. So I am going to rely a lot on Haiti and Joe and even Mike to, you know, from the story side of it, to really add more value to the team, given that my value is more in the design and execution of it. But even if I looked at this as something we're receiving for an idea to develop, if this was a client that we're supporting, similar to Haiti, there's a lot to explore. So it feels as a blue sky session. This is a great blue sky session of like what this could be as a delivery of an attraction or as a delivery of an experience. It's a seed. It feels like a seed that still needs, you know, it's at 30%. And for this, the experience, the criteria is expecting it to be at least 70%. So great feedback with Michael there to be free, you know, for AI and development. I'm curious if some of the students felt a little hindered by or concerned, depending on their programs, if that's allowed or not. So something to clarify for next year, that's welcome, as long as you have agency, as long as you are providing and you're curating this to what you're presenting. That's a fantastic tool that even us professionals are leveraging heavily, because it's saving you so much time to iterate. So iterate often. So the feedback here is, you know, would love to see this further developed, is my feedback, similar to Joe.
By the way, if I can just put him up on a hanger, Jamie, PETA, Michael gives a brilliant lecture on using AI in an ethical and responsible way. I think particularly for the art students, the first response was a lot of middle fingers, right, on it. You're stealing my jobs. Michael, he understands that, so he comes from a place of empathy. I'm like, no, I get why you're mad. And then he gives a really lovely lecture on here is how to use it. It's not getting news, right? It's the AI stealing stuff that's getting news, but and then also like any of the clubs. I know, Sanjay, are you the current president of your TEA club? Like, invite him as a speaker. Sorry, Michael. There's a lot of work for you. But he gives like students leave wanting to do this, right? Instead of like, well, I guess I'm not mad at it anymore. They're like, yes, please, how do we use this? And Frank, also you pinged on something interesting, like how would you present this? That's a great lead into what's my next step. Oh, talk to production folks to ask about, oh, well, here's how we would move forward with that. Who knows why reading matters right now? Why, if you followed my feeds, why is it in the news lately and why are we panicked about reading? About 60% of high school, college, and graduate students right now have never read a full book in their life. And academia and the job force is freaking out. Yes, Joe, that's the right response. And so, you know, when you come to university, there's this expectation that you can do A, B, and C, but you can't, because an entire generation hasn't read a book. It's too much work. It's too much commitment. So professors are having to sort of reimagine how to feed this content. And then that spills into, what do you pitch in there, Frank? Oh yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if you're trying to pick up a new one, I mean, I have stacks and stacks. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a stack over here as well. Oh, that's another thing. I have a MK's giant Google Doc of awesome things, which has a reading list, which that book I just added up there, and just, oh, there's more up there.
Yay.
But also what is not a surprising next step to that, we have an entire generation who is not reading, not only not classics, but not sitting and reading, is millennials aren't reading to their children. This whole tradition of libraries and storybooks and read a book before bed every night is almost completely gone from millennial parents. And that is a massively important part of children's development, not only family bonding, right? But children's development is being read too. So for this project, you know, if you're talking about how you might promote it or get funding or market it, like just open with that. Like, here's what I know I need to do, get with Frank and the production people and make it awesome. But here's why I'm doing it. Here's why I was inspired to do it, because reading, whoa. And also if what these trends are, like if you don't have the Gen Z stare, you need to know that that is an unfortunate stereotype about your generation, and proactively let me know that that is not what you have. Right, that you're in a hole that you didn't dig for yourself. Sorry. And so you want to make sure that you sort of proactively communicate where that doesn't. Next up, we have project number 3.
Before we open the project,
Yep.
you said something about Michael Levy giving a great speech about AI.
Yep.
This is SATE. How many years ago is this, Michael? SATE.
Oh, and it's even only gotten better, right? Since then, it's gotten better.
And at SATE in Vegas, when it was still super like, oh, they took our gerbs. We weren't allowed to even touch it. Nobody wanted. It was so taboo. If you said out loud you use AI, you were a thief. It was like, oh, so taboo. And I left Michael's speech. I've never said this to your face, Michael, coming back to my office, literally pontificating on saying, we are being productively irresponsible if you're not using AI. And I'm talking about like for things that are mundane, like Excel, like formulas. I could give a whole kind of secondary speech of how you affected me on that, but it's like, yes, be responsible. Don't knock off work. Don't say make my art look like this person's art and then call it yours. But if you need to iterate, need to do formulas, programming, C sharp, Python, there's so many applications that are making your life better. We're not going to be smarter than the computers. So leverage the computers as if they were your staff extension of your employees. So we can go to the next one. Thank you. Just wanted to add that in.
Maybe we just sit you down and record it, Michael, and put you up on the interwebs.
Yeah, I can put that link in the chat here. I'll just add to that yeah, don't forget there are two use cases for AI in this industry. The first one being as a productivity tool for design. That's actually not the one that I was talking about. I'm talking about procedural content, guest-facing content, and those are two different things. So just make a mental note of that and understand that it's a huge opportunity for creating attractions that have repeatability and individual content for every guest. And I'll get off my soapbox and post a link in the chat. But thank you, Frank.
He'll also come to your school over Zoom. So next up, our third project here, we have SenseGround for Lost Teens from Waseda University in Japan. Is Mansuki here? I don't even know what time zone that would be. Oh,
I'm Risako
Sako, is that you?
Maekawa,
Mhm.
and I'm from Japan here. Hello, nice to meet you.
all righty. Thank you. Thank you for joining. What time is it?
1:30 a.m.
Well done.
Thank you.
Michael's winning for buzz terms and using squinching. You win for time zone right now. Thank you for joining us. Let's start with Joe Lancistro on this one for feedback on SenseGround for Lost Teens.
Well, I really loved what you did. Just looking at it from a story and originality point of view, very original and very thoughtful too, to think about teens. I mean, in our industry, teens often get lost. And I think in every society, it's a difficult time in your development as a human being. And to think about that and then to come up with a story and design a place for it, I thought that was very original. In terms of how you presented it, your presentation wasn't super polished, and in some ways I appreciated that because it said the strength of the idea was so strong that you didn't need a lot of really beautiful polished drawings. And I thought your drawings, there was enough thought behind them that it was able to communicate your idea. Now, having said that, there are resources, you could have, maybe supplemented some of your drawings with imagery taken, again, maybe this is where you could use a little AI to help you, or just finding stuff off the internet. But that just would have made it a little stronger. But again, I felt that the idea was strong enough that your sketches worked to tell the idea. And again, the placemaking, you created a very specific place, again, using your kind of rudimentary drawings. It might have been nice, again, if you had a few more highly rendered pieces that would, help tell the story a little better. I think, having spent a lot of time in Japan, I worked in Japan for almost 30 years on and off. So I understand the Japanese aesthetic. So I felt like, it really played to that aesthetic and that understanding, and, maybe the Japanese deeper connection to nature and introspection. So I don't know how well this idea would translate elsewhere, but it was obviously coming from it was coming from your heart. It was obvious that it came from something that you really believed in, and that came across very, very strong for me. So the use of technologies, I would challenge you to just this came off as a very strong concept and idea for me. I think you need to spend more time now diving into it and really thinking about how you could visually flesh it out a little better, think about some of the technologies that you could apply to it. But because, as I said, I believe it's such a strong concept, you know, never lose sight of the concept. For me, the story is key. The strength of the concept will always carry. So don't get too lost in those things that I'm mentioning, but they will help it overall.
Thank you very much. I will learn a lot of stuff like illustrating or rendering my idea. Thank you.
So Michael, did you have feedback for this one as well?
I do, yes. First, I'll just give you some major kudos about choosing a topic that I think is really, really relevant. And there's a lot going on right now. Teens feeling loneliness, nowhere to go, a lot of frustration in general, kind of feeling lost. So you really honed in on something. And you know what, and that's not just teens today. I think that's something that all teens kind of go through at some point. I certainly went through it myself. So that just having that as a starting point is a really strong, like you found something really, really meaningful. You know, there's so much opportunity there. What I am seeing in the rest of the presentation is a static environment, and that's something I think you may have done by design. You called it sense ground. It's sort of like a place for reflection, meditation, that sort of thing. I'd like to encourage you. There's a guy in our industry. His name is Joe Pine. He wrote a very famous book called The Experience Economy. That's a, you know, almost required reading for this industry. But one of the things that Joe talks about is that the next version of the experience economy is the transformation economy. It's not just enough to go have an experience. You really want to have an experience that transforms you. And so that's the thing I think you might want to be thinking about for this project is how do you make it so that the people who go there aren't the same when they leave? You know, what's the experience that they have there that transforms them and helps them confront the loneliness and these feelings of not knowing what to do or feeling lost, I think. And one of the ways that you can do that, in my opinion, is via interactivity and doing it not just with one-on-one interactivity, but use some play patterns where maybe you team up with other guests, or you know, you need to collaborate and solve puzzles as a group or work as a group against the system or against the game and that sort of thing. So it's not adversarial, but the actual game mechanic itself encourages you to not be alone and to meet other people and collaborate with them and, you know, have those icebreakers and actually kind of break through some of those social barriers that are there. So it's a great start. It's sort of a great act one. But I think what I wanted to see was a little bit more of a transformative story. You know, what do the guests get to experience and go through that changes them? That would be my biggest piece of feedback for you.
Thank you very much.
I put
Yeah.
the link in the chat here. The Experience Economy, this is the first edition. They just released a second one. Be sure and get the second one. So that was Joe Pine and James Gilmore. And they really nailed and articulated beautifully, like loads of people have been saying it, but they said it so succinctly, what the experience economy is and why it matters, why we are willing to pay for experiences. Why do you sit outside an Apple store overnight in your sleeping bag when you could just buy it from Amazon, right? Like participating. And then the transformative experience economy is what we're rolling into right now. It's a little expensive right now. It's a little elite, but that's what we're rolling into. So that for sure should be on everyone's bookshelf. Frank also had mentioned earlier the idea of this might be an interesting academic approach. No one's talking about that, but there is a conference called TEAAS, Themed Experience and Attractions Academic Society. That is for all the professors in this space. Jamie goes every year. Peter founded it. Thank you, Peter. There was really no sort of standards or concept of like, what does a degree in themed entertainment mean? At least what is the core? What makes individual programs unique is what they have on either side, right? But what's the core? Part of that is a posters program for students and anyone who's doing interesting research in this space. And that is a remarkable opportunity to be able to present your work at a conference to talk about any research you've done. So far, like nothing that I've seen right now is research. But if that's in the back of your head, if you're studying any sort of guest dynamics or demographics or anything related to the experience economy or transformative, you do have the opportunity to present there. It is at IAPA, the Friday, the last day of IAPA. The IAPA Foundation graciously supports this session all day, and that is the week before Thanksgiving is when that happens. So put that in your back of your head and think about that.
Yeah.
Joe, did you have a look at this one? Oh, no, you spoke. You've been in Japan for 30 years. Heidi?
Yes, thank you. I want to echo how important Joseph Pine book is. It's amazing. I actually used it as a text when I taught themed interior design. There's another book that I'm reading now called Infinite Possibility. And then they have one more coming out shortly next year called The Transformation Economy. All three of these are absolutely imperative, I think. So thank you for bringing that up. Awesome.
This is a good one too, The Art of Game Design. However, it is not just video games. It's about anything that humans interact with. And he pulls very much from the Experience Economy book. But all you do is tell me, MK, I want the link to your big giant Google Doc of awesome things, and you will see all these books listed in the books tab.
Please, I want it. Please, thank you. All right,
Come on,
moving forward. I loved this project on so many different levels, and I'm torn between, is it a physical experience or is it a VR experience? And I am all things VR right now, obsessed with it. And so, of course, I'm looking at it that way. The other thing is that on a personal note, I have a family member who's on the spectrum. And whenever I go over to their house, most of the time they are on the sofa looking at their screen, their laptop with headgear on. And I know that there's an isolation that is happening. I understand a lot of different things that I'm learning through this young person, what their needs are and how challenging our world can be for them. I love this. And Michael's right. But how much do we know about what it takes to interact? How much do we know what it takes to respond to people? Sometimes I get a hello, sometimes I'm completely ignored. So I feel like there's a part of me that wants to roll these out one right after another and put them out there. But again, that whole experience of growing up and being an adult and what that takes, all those things, there's these nuances and there's these elements that need to be explored. And so, yes, this is a seed. And yes, this is an amazing idea, but there are so many things that have to be thought out. It's crucial because if you're going to create an environment like this, you have to know exactly, to the best of your ability, what is going to be experienced, how it's going to be experienced. It is a major challenge. And I understand we're not just talking about people on the spectrum. We're just talking about life. And right now, I could use a place like this because I'm pretty overwhelmed, and I will find myself venturing into the VR world a lot. So lots to talk about. I absolutely love this, but I echo everything that the gentlemen have said, and as has MK also. Job well done.
Another, again, how am I going to sell this? Me and my 0 MBAs. Here's how you're going to sell this. Many amusement parks, more of the seasonal ones, have actually put chaperone policies in place for teenagers right now. For this summer of 2025, they're considered a problem, and so this is a lovely approach to, rather than thinking about, well, they're a problem that needs to be managed, sort of thinking about opportunities to provide content to that audience specifically. That's a different lens, and so you've hit that well. So I was thinking maybe we'd like mix things up here. And what if we went with the students who were here next in order of the presentation? And then we can do all the recordings of the students who aren't here so that the students who are here can have some back and forth. Cyrus, does that like blow your world? Because now you're like out of order.
Mess me up.
Okay. I appreciate your agility. So this is number 6 on our list. Because I don't see that Brady Kubler or Josie Halst is here. Is Brady or Josie here? Or someone from their team? All right, then we'll go with Cyrus DeGrossa, the Tomb Legions, a reanimated ride. So let's start with you, Frank. But you gotta unmute yourself.
Which one did you say, the two?
It's number 6, the Tomb Legions. Sorry, reanimated ride. I like that we're into year 5 of Zoom, and it just keeps changing a little bit enough to where we're like, I got it. No, I don't got it. Like, how did I get muted or what? Why is my camera on? Is my camera off? Is the camera on?
And while I was trying to also stop the BGM playing from Risako's submission, as everyone was giving their feedback and that just BGM was playing in the background, it was like elevating what Joe was saying, what Haiti was saying. It was pretty awesome. So good background. So going into the Tomb of Legions, love your presentation. Very quirky, has some kind of Saved by the Bell 1980s vibe to it. I don't know if that's what you're going for. That's where it took me in the presentation. So again, I would leave the story and relegate it for those in the mentorship program that have more feedback on the story side. For me, is more content and visuals, and this is a good example for other students of what some of the mentors were mentioning about. In every slide, you do have a picture that's even a referendum, and it may not be a specific scene from what you're describing, but it's putting us in the mood as we're walking through what you're explaining. I love the character development. It all seems to be very unique and authentic, all self-developed. There's a young hand to it. It's not super polished as I'm submitting characters for costume design. There's a little bit of quickness to it, but I think it goes well with the vibe of the full-on presentation. I'm guessing most of the photos are online source, but for some reason, the one of our fellow students, the guests in the car, seems like an authentic photo. Is that accurate, or is that something also sourced online?
Yeah, everything, all of the images that weren't drawn were sourced online.
Cool. Just something about me picturing you developing this presentation and also being in the book in the car kind of just brought me there with you as you're describing it. So from a presentation standpoint, really good narrative. I love it that you had an attempt to the layout. Thank you for showing us almost like your thought process of how you started with a layout and then you had more of a digital version of it. So I believe that giving us such a strong storyline, strong reference images, almost begs to have a stronger layout a little bit further on there. I would advise something as fresh as SketchUp, something that you can even do online, something just to help you further develop your idea. So, the sketch on the left seems to me like the round 1 of your thinking about your layout, and then you have the round 2. I think that you could have taken just one more step further on that one, but I appreciate that it exists here in a form that we can consume and see where you were thinking from a spatial standpoint. Again, very strong presentation from like every single scene, what you were visioning, what you were describing. I feel the hours that were put into your presentation, so that we appreciate that. The story was very well interpreted based on the way you presented it. even ending with a shop in the gift shop at the end. Would it's somebody that understood an attraction from a retail standpoint, from an operation standpoint? So not serious, not don't really know if there's a background there in the theme parks. Have you worked there before?
I've never worked in a theme park, but like it's kind of been an interest of mine since I was a small child. So like it's something I've kind of researched ever since I was little.
Very cool, very cool. So the same way that you did for that one scene where you have a sketch and a layout, I believe that the pre-show gives us that. I was excited as I was making it through the way because you described every one of your scenes so well that at some point I was going to see your mental interpretation of your layout of what this attraction would have done. But it left me waiting for that. Like you gave me all the scenes and I'm like, oh, she's coming with it. It's coming with it. And here goes the pre-show and we're about to get there. And oh, where's my layout? Where do I see this? Even if it was as, you know, as quick hand drawn as the one you had for the pre-show, that would have nailed what you're thinking, the space of it, the layout of it. So again, really good presentation, solid. Just a couple of areas that I would have loved to see on there, even if it's just laid out to kind of help grasp the full idea with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm like, I don't know
Michael, you have
much about,
anything to
like,
add to that?
Oh, we were getting some feedback, MK. Good. Oh, she's frozen.
I do have feedback, but I don't want to interrupt Cyrus. Cyrus, were you saying something?
Wait,
Yeah,
everybody was frozen. We're back.
There you go. She was frozen.
yeah, sorry, but yeah, the one I was gonna just say was like the track layout, like the ride system is something that's like my not area of expertise. So like the closest thing I got was like my little like track ride through. So like that's one thing that I'd like to like delve more into. And like even if you just have like a suggestion, because you said like SketchUp, like that could be a good example of like what to use for layout, just like where like something to use to start with layout.
Yeah, so the track, was there ever, I see the images of the track and I wasn't sure if those were reference images or that's something that you developed, because was there a link that I didn't click on when reviewing this?
I
I
believe
see.
so. I don't know if it wasn't working on the PDF version, but the one picture was a link to the thing, which I totally understand skipping over. I didn't make it clear enough that it was a video. Um, but there should have been one, and it also might not have worked in the PDF form.
Yeah, I'm clicking through here. Track layout scene. Okay, now that we mention it, my mouse has become a click. So I would definitely, especially with so many PowerPoints that we get, add in a click here. Now I'm watching it with you. So kudos for that. Kudos for mentioning in the feedback too. And how did you develop this again?
I developed this first. I did like a really basic sketch of just like what I kind of wanted it to look like, and then I made that through not Coaster Tycoon, Planet Coaster, which is just like
Okay.
a roller coaster video game. But I was like, this is the easiest thing I can use for somebody who doesn't know anything about track layout to just make something.
Yeah, and you laid out the track. Here you go. You know, you did lay it out. So I would find a way to have a plan view of this and have that as one of your slides as well. Like include where your whole layout was envisioning, because we have a narrative of your layout and all the scenes, but we never, other than consuming this video, we never see that in your presentation. So if you can export a flat view or even just more snippets of it, and then also adding in some kind of, you know, inclination that that's a clickable video, I never occurred to me to click on it, and my bad. But thank you for mentioning that. Now I've consumed it now, so more points on that side.
Yeah, added on top of do all the things is make sure that the people reviewing your stuff, it is super, super obvious. Tell me what you're gonna do. Tell me, remind me what you just told me. Because most of these panelists, reviewers, anyone looking at resumes for a job, they're looking at hundreds at a time, right? And so if it's not super obvious where to click, where does my eye go? Does this one have audio? You risk them not seeing that. I don't know if any of you did the Gator, the UF design competition. They had two parts, a huge log, gorgeous, glorious, scientific worthy log, and like a 10-minute video. And the number of students who were mad that they were judged on the video first and not the log. They're like, the work was there. I'm like, nobody's going to dig through your 90-page journal to see if that one thing was cited. If it's important for your panelists to know, make sure that front and
And
center.
to Cyrus' defense, it says video on the left. It does
Mhm.
say in the paragraph, I literally saw the track and moved on to the next context. So
Yeah, so that's all you, Frank, but like arrows or
50-50.
something. Joe, is this one that you wanted to provide some feedback on for us?
Isn't that why we're here? So it's certainly, zombies is not a new story idea. But I did like that you took kind of a little different take on it and you were adding humor to it, which I'm always a big proponent of adding humor. I mean, you think about the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, it's fun, scary. I think that makes it more accessible to a wider audience. But you should think about how much story do you really need? Frank was talking just now, there were a lot, you put a lot of words around each of the scenes. But you always got to think about the actual guest experience and the ride experience and how much of that story can you really tell, especially on a fast moving ride vehicle. So it's good to have the story there because sometimes it works as a subtext for your designers, everybody go a little deeper into the story and let the story help to the design process. But really think about how much of that story is really going to be communicated to the guests and how you're going to communicate it. Which gets me to the next point about thinking about the specific effects, again, using the Haunted Mansion as kind of a reference point. The special effects were used to tell specific stories. The ghosts in the ballroom, no, they're using Pepper's Ghost. Now, I did this attraction in Hong Kong called Mystic Manor. And we spent a lot of time thinking about each of the scenes and how, the story that we were going to tell in each of the scenes and what was the best way and best technology to use to tell that story in that scene. So I would encourage you to think about, each of the scenes and how much story do you need? And the story that is there, what's the best way to deliver that little piece of story, especially on a fast moving ride vehicle. So overall, and use more visuals in the presentation. Words are good, but one picture is worth 1,000 words. Find, and again, if you can't draw, there's so much stuff out there for you to mine in terms of getting the imagery that you need. I said it earlier about the teenage project where her drawings weren't fully developed, but they supported the idea. And I just think it's important to have equal amount or even more drawings than words. Especially it's a visual medium. As we're moving through these attractions, it's all about what we see first and making sure you have the right visuals and the right hierarchy of visuals to tell the story is really important.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sorry, continue.
No, I'm done.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, thank you for bringing that up because there always has been like a worry of me, like, putting too many words and not enough effects. So yeah, I'll totally go into like seeing like what special effects can make it both scarier and also support like the tone.
Very good.
Did Michael make a noise? Did I hear a feedback from Michael?
Oh yeah, I have feedback on this as well. A lot of it has already been said, but yeah, I just want to compliment you first of all on picking a cool story. This was a really great public domain IP. I mean, anytime you reference Lovecraft, you're going to get points from me. So that was great. I can see the love and the care that you put into this. It really comes through in the creativity, and I love a good adaptation. So really want to compliment you on that. My comments really are not at all about the content, but about the presentation. First comment being that, you you really, when you're presenting a project, you really want to, at the very top, just sort of help people understand what it actually is that you're pitching. You know, what's the attraction? What is it? What's the log line? And you don't get to the log line until page 9. You talk about the importance of horror rides, you talk about, you know, the source material, but I really want you to start, you know, because if you go into a boardroom and you have a bunch of executives sitting there, they have attention spans. And you really need to kind of get them hooked at the very beginning. Here's what it is. Here's what I'm pitching to you. So that's one of my big pieces of feedback. And then, you know, then go into the characters and the backstory and all of that stuff. And then my second piece of feedback was exactly the same one that Frank had when I was reviewing this. Was I saw a nice bird's eye sketch of the pre-show. I really wanted to see a bird's eye layout of the ride. And I think maybe jumping straight into Planet Coaster is kind of even skipping a couple steps. Because the second that you start getting a vehicle going around the track, you need to start thinking about ride timing and how long every scene is. And really the first thing that you want to do, I think, is maybe even just do a bubble diagram of relationships between the scenes. And don't worry about how big they are or how long they have to be, but just kind of show the spatial relationship between the scenes. And the path of the ride vehicle through them. It just at first to help kind of sort it out for yourself, but also just to clearly communicate it to the person reading the presentation. Once you do that, once you get sort of a bubble diagram, then another good exercise is to have a bounding box. Like, is this going into a building? Is this going into an existing facility? And then sort of draw that box of the building that it's going to be in and try and fit it all in there. And, you know, it's a very iterative process, but for the sake of communicating the sequence of the rooms, I did not need to see a first-person POV from the ride vehicle perspective. I kind of wanted to see a bird's eye just to say, okay, first this, then this, then this, then this. I get it. Other than that, great work.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Time.
That's a good idea.
Well, yeah, no, simmer down. I got you. So obviously each of these panelists have way more notes that we can fit into this session, and are picking and choosing the top high level ones. And there may be some more nitty gritty, which is another reason to follow up with folks. And also when we give advice to everyone, even if I'm giving it to a particular project or a project team, you know, you should make sure and take notes on that. We also have 2 other sessions with other participants. You're all invited to all of the sessions. So either participate if you can, or be sure and watch the recording, because every single tiny bit of that feedback matters. And the panelists are different per. So like, just like skulk around and see who the panelists are and become their besties. So we do have in the room with us, Megan Kimsey. She is from Florida Atlantic University and did number 8 on our list. Heidi is first up to bat. What say you, madam?
Actually, I'd like to go back to the other one because I didn't get a chance to make some comments on that.
Talk it to us.
Okay, so quickly, whoa, incredibly expensive. And the throughput is concerning to me. Everything that everybody else has said, I'm not going to echo. I unfortunately, well, the good news is that there's this really awesome young man who's developed this, I'm going to call it an app, and he'll probably not be happy with me, called World Builder. And it's ironic what you can do with that. He's shaking his head. Michael's got this amazing system, but there's a lot packing in there, a lot, and it looks to me like it requires an enormous amount of time, and all that you want to show, all you want your guest to experience is going to take a lot of time. I'm going to go back and echo some other things about we are visual people. I also wanted to say that I have a daily email that comes in that's called Explain It Daily. And they give me the option on how I want this explained. First one is like a 5-year-old, like I'm in college, like I'm an expert, and like with Legos. So in order to expedite and to keep things moving forward, I would strongly suggest that you consider, in some cases, please feel free to offend me and explain it to me like a 5-year-old, because it's a lot easier. So 2 things, very important. Let's see what it looks like. Floor plan is absolutely imperative. Looks like a lot of packing in. Looks like it's really expensive, and I'm concerned about the throughput. But it's great. Okay, I just want you to know that because of the time factor, and I'd love to discuss it offline. I think we all would be very happy to do that. Okay, so what's the next one?
Next one up is number 8 on our list, Universal Destinations and Experiences Entering Brazil from Florida Atlantic University. Take it away, Megan Kimsey. We'll just start with Heidi there. You've already got your mic on.
Wow. I read this over and over and over again, and I have to say that a lot of research went into this. A lot of data went into it. But what I do wanted to know was even more. You referenced the top 5 highest grossing UPI movies. Okay, that's great. But what does that compare to the other studios? I want to know, in the scheme of things, and the overall, where do these IPs stand in Latin America? So those were some things that I felt were kind of missing in this. A lot of work involved, a lot of research. Certainly the political climate is a key role. A lot of things you have to think about. I think we are all aware that Disney is venturing into Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. I worked on several projects that were for Saudi Arabia. One was a water park, one was a theme park. Had to learn the culture with the speed of lightning, because there are things that we would do that are absolutely not acceptable in other countries. So I think it's imperative that you might not know the language, but you've got to know the culture. It would be very interesting to me to see how one could develop those IPs. I also worked on Bollywood and Motion Gate, and Bollywood, which was in Dubai, Motion Gate, which was in Dubai. Again, cultural differences are imperative, and I probably would have liked to seen a little bit more talked about in terms of those and helping somebody make a decision where they wanted to move forward. Overall, pretty dang good comprehensive report. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
And Jill and Cicero there, who has got worlds. See what I did there? Worlds of experience operating cross-culturally. What feedback have you got on this one?
Well, I thought, first off, I just thought it was very original to present a business paper as part of this showcase. I thought that showed a lot of originality, and at first I go, oh, does this belong here? But then the more I thought about it, and the more I read into it, you know, and just taking it on face value on what she was trying to do. Very, very, very well researched. Builds a very clear narrative about Universal and the Brazil market. In terms of the placemaking, you know, it spend the time to really understand, you know, the place, Brazil, and did a good job describing its attributes. The guest narrative piece was replaced by the market understanding, and again, very clear argument for Universal and the possible entry into the market. You know, Heidi was talking about all the various places in the world, you know, where parks are being built. South America is a very, very volatile market. I actually spent time in the 90s as part of a team at Disney looking at South America, and because of both, you know, the political situations there and the economic situations, you know, it's very unstable. So, I mean, you always have to think about, you know, bottom line is, you know, is there both the political and the financial stability to make any kind of development worth even thinking about. So this person, she thought thought about all the right things and very, very well researched. Again, I questioned, was this the right thing to submit for this group? But in the end, I thought it was worthwhile and very well done.
Thank you so much. It's funny you mentioned that because I had the same thought. I'm like, does my project really belong here? And I actually reached out to MK and Nate and sent them like 2 different projects, and they were like, submit both. So I did. So you'll see another one that's like a little different coming up too, I think, in a different session.
Very good.
And also it's conversations like these where we aim you toward the, oh, yes, this, and maybe also this, like the TEAS poster competition, poster showcase that I had mentioned. This might be a really good case study for that. Please apologize to Sebastian for making him cry, Joe. He is actually Brazilian, and he didn't know that they almost had a park there. Frank, what do you got for us on this one?
Again, these are the ones that I'm a little bit of lackluster, given my production design background. Again, like Joe and Haiti mentioned, a lot of thought, a lot of process went into this. I would love to know like the time frame to put this together. As a Latino myself, this is a case that I'm actually actively making for not only places like Brazil, but places where I'm from. I guess everybody does it where you're geolocated from the Dominican Republic, a place that doesn't require visas. So it's like, come on, Central South America, let's all go to a place that doesn't require visa, especially in this political climate. If people have, some uncertainty about where to go, they can go there. And that way you're tapping into this other, a third of the world that you can tap into, but wherever that is, I'm a big proponent for, maybe Brazil, South America, Central America, or the Caribbean. So the case study is fantastic, and it opens up a huge conversation of things to come. Joe, thank you for sharing that you did explore this, because I think all of us from Latin America feel like we're here. Why is it not somebody looking at it? And I understand the machine will do all their due diligence first before ever announcing something, similar to now the announcements of like Universal in the UK or Disney Abu Dhabi. These are public things that have been announced, and years go into that happening before that. So I'm excited for the case study. I'm excited for how you put this together, so well crafted, so professional. And again, similar to Joe, how you felt, Megan, was, does this belong here? Is it a case study? But you did it in such a rich fashion that I think it does. I think that would love to couple you with like an Eduardo. Like, how do you take that and then take Eduardo and then make it into a world, or others that are on the call? I'm just saying, like that how does that become? What would it look like if you were now applying that to the region? If you were honoring the realm in which is in, and doing something that's honoring Central America with a Disney or a Universal. Just things to explore.
Right, and we're
that.
on year 5 of this, and it has really evolved every single year. And so who knows? Maybe next year we'll be like, yes, and here's the case study category. So you may have inspired us.
Yeah, I love that feedback, and I hope that this can help you with your research exploring in the Caribbean. And it's funny because I was mechanical engineering undergrad, so I actually pursued an MBA because I was like, okay, like now I have the technical background, but like how can I actually like make business cases to like go out and do these things? So it's been really interesting.
Thanks, Greg. Michael?
Yeah, Megan, just hearing that from you, that you started as a mechanical engineering undergrad, I think makes this even more impressive. I just assumed you were just sort of business through and through. But no, this was great. I really enjoyed reading it. The case that you make is a really good one. The only sort of constructive piece of feedback I would give, it's almost not even fair to give, but it's kind of the same one, which is I want to hear more of your own personal opinion, maybe towards the end, rather than it be sort of like a business plan sort of pitch document. I just kind of want a more personal opinion from you, but that's not even, part of the criteria even here, just a suggestion. The only other thing I'll say is, yeah, it's a thorny issue when you have an American company presenting a company's culture back to themselves. my personal experience, I mean, we saw what happened. I'm from California. We saw what happened with the initial California Adventure Park here. Which was a learning experience about representing a culture back to the people of that culture. And then, of course, with Shanghai Disneyland, the phrase that they kept using over and over is authentically Disney, distinctly Chinese. Trying to get that balance. Yeah, and then the only other comment I have is there's a great book that I read that really helped my perspective on this. It's a book called Riding the Black Ship. And this has to do, Joe, actually, you may have heard of this book. It was published in '99, but it's basically about the way that Disney entered the Japan market, and all of the political machinations they had to do. They actually had to hire like undercover people masquerading as fishermen to go into some of the fishing villages to get public sentiment turned towards Disney. To turn positively towards Disney, to allow them to sort of come in and buy land there and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's called Riding the Black Ship. I'm not sure if it's in print or not.
Yeah,
but
I
this
just put it in the comments. You can get it on Amazon.
Oh, great. But yeah, super interesting topic. I'm really glad you decided to apply and include your submission, because it was very different, and it was a real breath of fresh air. And a great job. Well done.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was originally supposed to study abroad in Brazil. I'm not Brazilian, but that's why I picked Brazil to do my project. And then the trip got canceled, unfortunately. But I wanted to expand on this and like maybe like create like some kind of like actual theme park lands, but the trip got canceled. But that doesn't stop me. I might still go one day.
Eduardo will host you.
Sounds great.
So I would like to take a moment to give a shout out for all the students here from other projects. We have Alabama and UT Austin here. All three of these sessions are recorded, so if your project is reviewed today, but you are working or unable to participate, you can watch the recording. But they're here to see feedback on others, like in person. So well done, you. When I mentioned be interested and interesting, that's what I mean. Is show up for things like this. So according to my notes, everyone who's here in person has already got their feedback, and the 3 projects that we have left will be recorded so that those project teams get the feedback. But I don't think we have a representative. I don't think we have Brady Kubla, Josie Holst, or Matthew Castron over here, do we? All right, so we can go in order for those for the feedback. So for our panelists, the first one is number 4 on our list, the picture of you, an immersive art experience. Michael, you want to just keep on a roll here and start the feedback on that one? You got to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I love the IP that you chose. I thought this was a really clever idea for a walkthrough, and kind of a genius use case for generative AI, honestly. Like this is a really appropriate use of using generative AI to take a photo of you and age the photo and make it look like a portrait that's aging over time. I think that's really fun. My biggest issue, I think, was that as the experience was being described, it sort of petered out. There was this pre-show with live actors and that sort of thing, and part of the registration process, one of the things that's mentioned is, you're invited to act morally or immorally within appropriate reason during the experience, and that will determine the final touches on your painting. It's never explained how. How does that actually work? The choices that you make and the decisions that you make, how does that impact the actual outcome? And then the actual main show, once you get from the pre-show into the main show, unless I misunderstood something, I think it's you just sort of sitting in silence while they're painting your picture. And I think it even mentions, if you start talking, the actor starts shushing you. And so I have some concerns about, is that a fun show? Is that a valid, you know, how long can that really last? Is that a 5-minute show, 10-minute show, 15-minute show? So I would like to see the main show before the reveal at the end fleshed out a little bit more, probably with more live actors and a little bit more thought into what's the story that happens into that room. Everything else was great. I thought you did a great job of thinking through the tech and the tech pipeline. But yeah, it's what's the main show? Everything else is there, but what's the big sort of wow moment and the spectacle? One of my old mentors, Joe Garlington, used to, oh, this is something that sticks with me, and I repeat it all the time. You have to be careful when you're creating something interactive that it's not what does the guest have to do to get the payoff? It's what does the guest get to do to get the payoff? It shouldn't be an obstacle. It should be something actually fun. It's not like you're withholding and making it difficult for them to get the payoff. The actual process of doing it should be fun as well. So just keep that in mind.
That's
what
a
I got.
nice lead into Frank, our production guy. What are they going to do that you don't want them to do and break it?
Going back to Michael, you were just about to tell me I'm muted. We all start talking before the mouse releases the the mute. Going back to Michael and the experience as a whole, this to me was cool. I love that, you know, it's a little bit of an obscure IP, but it felt almost like a subcategory of an exhibit at a museum. You're honoring the book, and now there's a show or a traveling show that's going from museum to museum with this book, and this is a part of that exhibit more than a full attraction. To me, like, I think that's the level of which it would be successful, because to Michael's point, how long is this? And the turnaround is, you know, you went through it, you did this, made some selections, and now you have this product. So the length of it, I can't see this or wrap my head around it as a full attraction. It's more of a, there's an exhibit, or they're honoring a particular a book or author, and in that walkthrough, you see this as one of the interactive things that exists within there. From a production design standpoint, of course, we would dive into the frames and how they're attached and how that's visual, but I think that's a little bit eons in the future of of developing the story, the narrative. Presentation wise, kudos. Great language, font selection, build. That's something that we get into very deeply when we're doing design. It's a layout. It's how can you consume the data, and everything was very consumable. Some of the literature was put there as reference, and it's very tiny, but I think that the treatment, I'm not sure if the treatment was meant to be consumed at that scale. If it was to be consumed, that wasn't successful from a presentation standpoint. Leaving it on a page and then have to zoom in further onto, but for the rest of the presentation, the balance, the look, the treatment was very successful throughout. I think it was very cohesive, just from a graphic standpoint, other than the treatment being so reduced in font size. But from an overall experience, again, I think this is more of an exhibit add-on than an overall attraction. That's my feedback.
So in the biz, that's either called an enhancement, or you just open with, this is a proposal for a possible museum exhibit, or you reference the article I just sent you on the rise of boutique experiences. Joe, what say you?
I say I'm gonna just echo pretty much everything that Michael said. I think he was right on focusing in on the kind of the main show experience. Also agree with him about, you know, good use of tech, interesting adaptation of an IP or the H.P. Lovecraft story. I thought that was all great. But just from a guest experience point of view, you know, if the whole thing is about, you know, this painting and the transformation of the painting, it seemed like it just fell short in the end. Again, just looking at this from you know, a story point of view and a guest experience point of view, you know, you need to really think hard about, you know, how the guests are gonna, when they leave, you know, what kind of emotion are they gonna have? It felt like, okay, they did the painting changed. there needed to be some kind of, again, as Michael said, some wow at the end. Did you know, H.P. Lovecraft actually, did the character come back at the end, or, you know, something that, you know, really made that end moment, you know, memorable and paid off the whole experience. And I think Frank's comment about it feels more like a traveling experience. I think it's because of that. I think if they would have spent more time thinking about how they could build the experience into something bigger, then, you know, then it could stand on its own. And again, the same same comment I've had on a number of these, just more visuals, too many words, you know. This is a visual medium, you know, and especially when you're trying to sell an idea and communicate an idea to people, the stronger your visuals and the more targeted your visuals, the stronger your presentation is going to be.
Thank you, sir. Heidi, what do you got for?
One of us needs to learn how to mute and unmute.
There's something nice about all of us not knowing how to do it.
This is definitely an add-on, as Frank said. I could see this because I think many of us probably went and saw the Van Gogh immersive experience, which is not, but that's just my opinion. Something where this could be a part of the VIP experience for that, with some extra change coming the way of the producers. One of the worst experiences one can ever have at any kind of themed entertainment is when you're not the one being selected to participate. And you stand around and watch all these people go, and there's 5 people that go up to the stage and they have the best time in the world, and the rest of us don't give a rat's ass about what's happening. So you've got to be very careful that this doesn't become a complete lull and people literally don't want any part of it. My feeling would be it would have to be a VIP experience, and they'd have to submit an image prior. Now, there's a way in which all that can tie in, but this is not a group experience. So it's a fun idea, but I don't feel strong about the execution happening on this one.
Yeah, and that's some nice advice for like what might the next steps be. Really focus on it as an individual experience, or think about how to expand it as a group experience if that's the intent. So now next up, number 5 on our list. We'll start with you, Heidi, because your mic's already on. Designing a Children's Wellness Center from Josie Hulst at the Ringling College of Art and Design. I think Jamie told me that they're working right now, so in a theme park. So
I really liked this project a lot. And I started to look at it more architecturally because that's where my background is and what I do now. And when you're talking about flow and movement and soft lines, the architectural facility was sharp lines. So if you're going to create a soft movement of everything has to be soft and flowy. I thought it was a nice idea. I think it's important, again, that we create these environments for people more and more. The days of Sunday in the park with George doesn't happen a lot for a lot of families, unfortunately. It was interesting. I thought it was well thought out. It's going to take a lot more work to get it to a place where, again, it could be some kind of rollout. And if it's the end results is to just bring a little calmness and a peacefulness and a balance to those that are experiencing it, that's great. But every step of the way has to evoke exactly what your goals are, not only in content, but also in facility and structure.
yeah, and similar to the Brazil project, this is a children's wellness center. You have a different obligation when you're working with zoos, aquariums, museums, the entire Brazilian culture, right? You have an obligation to be authentic and get it right. So if you're designing a children's wellness center, you need somebody on board who understands children's psychology. Like you were mentioning, the design of the building not only tells that story, but allows certain things to happen in that space. So that's an example of why you would never, don't you try and get smart on that. Get somebody who's already smart on that on your team.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Frank, what say you?
Kudos from the presentation standpoint. I mean, there was effort here. There was effort in modeling it all and developing it all, putting lighting towards it to really convey the idea. Again, there's some areas that could have been further developed. Appreciate where the inspiration came from, the research on it, the layout, the storyline of like, we're going from this layout, a hind, to a rendered plan, and narrating all the spaces. There are some issues with the layout, or even the model itself, how the flooring is floating above where the landscape is, which would allude to a drop off, and you're already dealing with people that are hindered in their capacity of walking. You want to minimize their ability for a trip hazard or a shelf to fall off of, and that might have been not intentional. That could have been just lack of expertise or experience with the model. Even though if I go to the fifth view of the entrance, then the floor looks flushed with the landscapes. I don't know if there's just different iterations of the models that just got put together here due to minimal time. Not sure, but there are some ledges in some of the views that I hope those are not deliberate or intentional in the design, and it's more of a lack of modeling ability, because you would not want those to put in risk or in harm for these individuals. I love it that there's some interactive lighting on the inside, and I think that that's an invitation that could have occurred on the outside as well. Now that you have all this light, could it be just light spaces in the sidewalk where the kids can step on, or something along the walls? There's a little bit of a koi pond. Those things are all nice and accents, but similar to what MK you mentioned, what research is tangential to this? What information are we banking on that this improves wellness and the effect of light, on human behavior, the effect of light on feeling better and well? So overall, kudos on the effort, kudos on the modeling and assembling these things, which are never easy. But I think that the research to substantiate the design would have added a lot of value to this presentation.
Thanks. Joe, what have you got?
As I unmute here. Yeah, I agree with Frank. Kudos. They put a lot of effort into it and there was a lot of information there. But for me, it fell short in that it lacked any clear focus and clear organization. I didn't know, what was this about? Lighting design? Was it about wellness? Was it the landscape? I mean, they hit on all those things, but I think the problem was all of it should have gone back to reinforcing the idea of children's wellness. If that's your big theme, then everything you're presenting has to work back to that in some way, and your presentation should be organized in a way to reinforce that. And I just felt like the presentation was lacking in just some simple organization that could have helped, the flow of the information that reinforced the wellness idea.
Michael, what have you got? There is some really interesting trends in themed architecture for senior communities right now. Reimagining malls as nursing homes, reimagining nursing homes as little tiny 1950s, 40s cabin type thing. So there is research out there on what works and for what demographic, depending upon what your goal is. So, Mr. Libby?
Yeah, so I wanted to check to see if I'm on mute first, but I wasn't this time. So this is one of the ones where I probably cannot give feedback that's as good as somebody like Frank or Joe, because I'm not a production designer. I thought these were some very impressive renderings. Nice work there. Clearly, you have either an architectural or a design background. I have a background as a writer, and I think to Joe's point about how does this all support the theme of wellness. It might be a good exercise. One of the things that I always do that helps me get ideas around in my head and form a structure of a presentation is to always write a guest experience narrative. Even if you never present it, it just helps you organize your thoughts in terms of, okay, I'm the guest. I enter the space. This is the first thing that happens. This is what I see. Then I do this. Then I do this. Then I do this. This is, you know, and that just helps sort of ground what the actual experience is and describing it and helping other people understand it. These were a lot of very pretty pictures and some great design, but I still didn't fully understand what the actual experience of the guest was. And so that would be my second note is, I want some more information about how this thing operates. How many people can use any of these one facilities at a time? You know, is it a group of 10 at a time? Is it a group of 50 at a time? Is it one guest at a time? And you know, what does that mean for your capacity? That of course affects throughput, it affects staffing, all of these things. I certainly don't expect you to have all of that figured out, but I'd like to see that there was at least some thought put into it in terms of just how this thing actually functions.
Yeah, and there's some great resources there. Immersive Storytelling for Real and Imagined World. Margaret Carrison now has 3 books out that are very useful. And how do you tell stories in dimensional spaces? How do you learn from the gaming industry to do that? Again, some of those are on my book list. If you know of more, let me know. I'll throw them in there for you. Thank you all. Our final one, Big Finish. We'll start with you. I was going to say we'll start with you, Michael, because your mic's already on, but you turned it off. I will be the one that opens with, you have no right to do a project on the Horizons Pavilion. That is IP that somebody else owns. I'm not a lawyer, but I will explain to you, if you want me to, what academic fair use is, and this isn't it. And the issue is Disney going to sue you? Probably not. But many of us have a rule when we review portfolios that we can't look at IP violations. I don't want to see your Scooby-Doo haunted house, right? So I have to close the portfolio and hand it back to you. That means I don't look at your other stuff. And what if your best stuff was after that? The UT students who are here, they did a lovely escape room this semester on Alice in Wonderland. That's IP that's in the public domain. They didn't use any Disney imagery, right? So really think about the projects that you're picking and the IP you're picking. And like, if you want to do Star Wars, just make it spacey, right? Like, please do not take other people's IP. So our last one up, Horizons Pavilion CAD project. It's number 7 on our list. From Matthew Castronova. Michael Libby, take it away.
Sure. Well, you know, Horizons is one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, it's sad that it's gone. You know, this is different than all of the other submissions because it is not, I mean, I don't think I'm hurting anyone's feelings when I say this is not an original concept. This is a 3D model of an existing facility or a once existing facility. So I think this is really, this has to be judged in terms of, you know, first of all, how accurate it is and how well you did as a 3D modeler. I think probably the person to give the best piece of feedback on this is going to be Frank, because this is his area of expertise specifically. And so the feedback that I would give you as a 3D modeler is, are you sure you want to be using SolidWorks? That's a question that I have. That's kind of like a setup for Frank's feedback, hopefully. You know, always finding the right tool. I know a lot of people in this industry are moving towards Revit as the leading architectural tool. Other than that, yeah, look, if 3D modeling is what you want to do, I think you're definitely on the right track. I would encourage you to become more multidisciplinary and, you know, try to create something new, an original concept, building it from the inside out, story first, show building last. That's it.
There you go, Frank. Nice setup for you.
Thank you, Michael. Agree with Michael on the software selection. There's a lot of artwork out there that's admired because someone, for example, did a picture with bobby pins, and they build a bunch of bobby pins more admirable than the picture is the fact that they did it with Mobby pins, and that's how I looked at this. It's like more admirable than the building is the selection of SolidWorks, which is usually relegated for parts and pieces to build something mechanical, how a mechanical engine works, or a ride vehicle, not a building. There's a lot less painful methods to build a building with a lot of tools that exist that out of the box have building components for you to utilize and baking this building, walls, roofs, doors, versus having to manually build everything. So if that's the avenue this individual wants to follow, to make sure that they're following and not using a hammer to drill a hole, but picking the drill to use the hole. So that's easily an advantage there. Now, if you're exposing yourself now that you've done this model, very proud of it, and let's just dissect it, we can definitely go into the accuracy, proportionality of the building, angles that all have to be respected, because if you are a portrait artist, you have to get the proportionality of the individual you're drawing exact, because if I draw Michael and I just separate his eyes by 1 millimeter, put them two together by 1 millimeter, I'm throwing off the character. And that happens with buildings here. So given that this is what you're asking us to fully focus on, I can get really, really detailed, and the dimensionality of some of the columns and the spacing of some of the windows and the standing seam roof. I'm going to save the time for everyone here on the call and say that a lot of these aren't as accurate as you would want them to be for something that you're asking to be judged for, just the building itself, of how well did I do to catch something that existed and make it into digital form. The expectancy is that that'll be praised by being 1-to-1 and almost exact. And that's not the case when I look at the model. So, and then even there's some clashes. There's a door, it's an image is shown where there's a pipe, and I don't know if that is something that just existed and it was an inside joke that that pipe clashed through that double door, the very last image at the bottom, or is it just an example of coordination that the person was trying to elevate? So feedback is, if you love modeling, there's a lot of great tools. Reach out even directly to me. I would love to do a 15-minute call on Zoom and say, here are the tools I would recommend for you to do if this is the path you're headed down. We'd love to be a mentor in that space. That's the feedback.
Yeah, and if the skill set you're trying to showcase is I'm a modeler, there's a lot of really great ways to do that without worrying about IP. Just make that clear. Like, I'm not a story person, I'm not water fountains, I am an architectural modeler, and then that way anyone looking at it has the right lens on it. So the link that I just sent you for Slice Creative Network just did an industry survey of the top 10 used tools. And as soon as they post it, people are like, that's baloney, I don't use that. Well, maybe you should have participated in the survey. Thank you, Michael. The link I sent was no good. He just sent a better link. And so you bet your bippy that next year more companies will participate in this survey because they were displeased with the results. They're like, well, we don't use that. Well, you didn't answer the survey, so how are they to know? And so this is, again, not absolute data, it's just who chose to participate, but it is a nice little sneaky peek into what some of the more popular US-based tools are in this industry. So Joe, do you have any feedback on this one for us? Is he still here?
No,
Yep,
I'm
there you
here. Yeah, not, I really don't have a whole lot to say about this. It's outside my area of expertise. I just questioning, did it belong in the showcase? The showcase was about looking at storytelling, placemaking, guest narrative, technical stuff, and just, kind of a CAD study. I questioned whether or not it belonged here, but it's good that people like Frank, and I thought what Michael said at least gives the students a little bit to chew on.
Yeah, so let's finish with our architectural building specialist there, Haiti. But also this gives us, the Nate, when I say us, I mean you. Like, do we not accept something like this for this, but point them at somebody who can review it, right? The whole point here is that we connect students with resources and people and reality in the industry. And either we can expand what we are looking at and give them feedback on, or providing a link to that student so that they get that feedback in a more appropriate forum. So that's for us to sort of noodle on. Ms. Hirsch, off you go.
The moving trend right now, fast and furious, is Revit. We don't work in any other software to build any kind of architecture without Revit. It just CAD, it says it's a CAD project, but you can see that there's other software that was being used. This was a grave disappointment. I got to be honest, and I'm sorry that I have to be the one to say that, but
Hey everybody, this is Nate from themedattraction.com. I actually wanted to jump in here because I disagree with the panelists, a couple of them, and I just wanted to actually add this into post-production so that you don't get too discouraged. Just a little background, I actually did a lot of CAD work back years ago for Universal Creative and Universal Art and Design and different places like that, iTech. And so there's a little bit of a near and dear place in my heart for someone who attempts to do a CAD project. So anyway, Matthew, this is for you. So first of all, the your project, thank you for submitting it. It definitely belongs into the showcase. There are 140 disciplines when it comes to themed entertainment design, and doing drafting and CAD drawings, that's one of them. So you're 100% welcome and encouraged, and thank you for submitting. When it comes to IP, that's a gray area. I'm not sure if I completely agree with MK. It is a good idea to do your own designs. With that said, because you can make anything that's cool. Where I maybe disagree is the fact that, if for example, I'm a draftsman and I want to do the Statue of Liberty, right? I'm not infringing on the Statue of Liberty's IP necessarily. This is your interpretation of what the Statue of Liberty looks like, and it just happens to be the Horizons building. So, with that said, let me give you some advice as somebody who's done these sort of drawings before, and that way you can make them right, because I know you're a mechanical engineer, and this is architectural show drawings. Okay, so show drawings are different than architectural drawings. It's architectural like, but you're not an architect. So what you're going to do is you're basically helping indicate where the show is going to be, if that makes sense. So you're going to indicate where the signage is, where ride vehicles are, where sets and scenics are, everything that has to do with the show, if it's show drawing. Okay, so you'll then hand those show drawings off to an architect who then is going to put them up to code into whatever area that whatever part of the country or part of the world they happen to be. So when you're doing a drawing like this, you did some elevations there. You should do a plan, a section, an elevation, and then you break out and you put a little cut line there and you make details. So, detail of a wall, of a sign, of an area where sets and scenics go. Then you do a reflected ceiling plan, or just literally a floor plan, a ground plan, where you indicate where the ride vehicle would go, indicate where the sets and scenics will go in there, indicate where signage goes, where props goes, where animation goes, all the things that will go into a ride. That's what you want to put in there. So I want to encourage you that this is a great first start. And then what you got to do is you got to add into that to make it a complete project. So you want to make sure that every one of your drawings has a title block. Make sure that every one of your drawings is drawn 1-to-1 in the computer, and then put it to scale within the title block. So it's going to be a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, whatever that is. Again, you're trying to communicate the show to all parties involved. And so this is a valuable portion of it. So what I would say is good start. Thank you for submitting, and I appreciate you doing everything you can. I think the scores are going to reflect lower than probably what they could, because we told them, look for story, look for this, look for that. We gave them broad categories, and they said, well, this project doesn't fit the category. So that's on us that we didn't give a good category for an other, as it were. In this case, I think you're doing just fine, but make sure that you flesh the entire thing out. If you're going to take it down the CAD path, and then draft it 100%. And if you need to reach out to me, feel free, or I could put you in touch with somebody who really knows how to do it. So
that is passe. First of all, I agree. Don't mess with anybody else's IP. If you're wanting to show your skill base, then you really need to move into Revit, 3D modeling, Rhino. All of these are being used. And as you noted, Slice Creative Network that just did the poll, you can see that's what they're looking for. We oftentimes will put potential designers in front of Disney And I know that it's Rhino, it's Revit, it's Grasshopper. Sometimes they want SketchUp, sometimes they don't. Some of us here are ex-Imagineers, maybe all of us, but at one time or another, we've been, we certainly have been tapped on the shoulder. But I strongly advise this person to move into a more updated software. And yeah, Michael, I'm looking at what you're saying. Unity, Unreal Engine, we are moving fast and furious into those worlds. Clients, even clients that don't even know what they want, know what they want. And you'll see that dictation. You'll see where the Middle East, Asia, they're all asking now more and more for Revit. They're asking more and more now for walkthroughs in early concept stages. You can't save that into the latter phases of a project. They want it right now. I've got a client up in Oregon, in this small little tiny town. They don't even know what they want, but they know they want to be able to walk through their project. So that's, you absolutely got to move forward in all of the software, particularly when it comes to architecture. So
And one important
a little harsh,
reality.
a
Pardon?
little harsh, but it has to
No,
be said.
that's what this is all about, is there is no value in not actually pointing out what the expectations are, right? So thank you. As Nate will tell you, that's usually me who makes people cry. One reality for many of you, particularly anyone here from SCAD, is that your faculty gives you assignments in this thing. And so you've got a great piece of work in this tool. So like, what's that story? You know, if you know that not a single company you're applying to uses that tool, tell the story about, here is the assignment. I had to use CAD or whatever. Here's what I learned about modeling and porting files in and out. Like, talk about why it was a value and how what you learned might apply to other things. Rather than not include it at all, if you're proud of that work, but like, give some context to why you had to do it. I know there are some universities that give you assignments with IP in it. Do like one on the side without the IP in it. We are at 102, so well done, y'all. Heidi, what you got?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing. I took that Slice Creative Network poll and I sent it out to a lot of the designers or the managers that I work with over at WDI and Universal. So hopefully they'll give me some feedback on what they saw there. But we're constantly trying to get updated on software. Crazy software is out there. My God, I got a resume where one full page was just the software that this person knew. That's great on some level, but it can be diluted. Just be very clear about what is being looked for now.
Yeah, and use words like experience with and expertise in to let a reviewer know what you're really, really good at. Really, really good is I can pay you 40 hours a week to do it. Familiar with is I did 1 or 2 projects. I like that Eduardo's like counting on his fingers. He is keeping track of what's going on here right now. So what's your homework? If you can, participate in the other 2 sessions, just so that you see feedback for other folks. Be sure and watch the video, definitely of them if you can't participate. Connect with everybody on this screen right now, because there's some awesomeness in this room. Connect with other folks who are participating and keep these conversations going, right? This is really just a start. And like, there is some freaking awesome brain power in the room here right now. So like, I shudder to think what Joe Lancicero's hourly rate is, but I think he just got about $1,000 of Joe's brain. So thank you all. Be sure and follow up. And all of these have next steps. So let's think about that. And of course, one of the next steps is, what are you going to show us next year?
And thank
Any
you,
questions?
MK. Thank you, MK, for moderating.
And thank you, everybody who participated. This has been really a great experience for all of us. We all learn. We all get to know more and more each time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I said at the top of this, I think it's the diversity of thought and all the different points of view, you know, people coming from different places that the students really benefit from. So, and MK, fantastic job moderating. Thank you.
Thank you for the list of
Fantastic.
awesomeness too.
Oh,
The
yeah.
giant,
Oh,
the
yeah.
giant ugly Google. So I have the two news feeds. If you want, let me know. One's on LinkedIn, one's on Facebook. I have MK's giant Google Doc of awesome things, and I have a whole bunch of resources for career hunting in particular. I do a project with my students called Pick a Pro, where they have to pick an industry, game or studio or whatever, and they have to interview that person. I have like over 100 folks in our industry who have said, please, please make sure that I can help your students, which is amazing, right? Because they're like very big, important people. And they're like, no, I would love, Krista has done that. Yeah, loads of people on this call have actually done that. And just developed, aside from having a nice chitty chat with an industry professional, Michael has done it. They're like, make really good friends in the industry. And they're all like, they're not scary. No, we're not. We're lovely. So this
Okay,
is
real
how I
quick.
say goodbye on Zoom, y'all, since nobody knows what to do. We're all like looking around, are we done? I use sign language,
Well,
so thank you.
Yeah, let me, if I can, just do a couple quick announcements. Each of
Ready?
you will receive a feedback packet of all the written comments down from your respective panelists. The last session, which is to be scheduled, it should be coming up in the next couple weeks. We will have the awards announcement at the end. Mr. Freddie Martin will be announcing those. And so we are still currently working with everyone's schedules, trying to get everyone in the room. So both of the following two sessions are in the works. So stay tuned and I will email you and post those when they're coming up. So thank you for listening today. That's all I have.
Thank you. This has been great fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you and goodbye.